Hey guys. Tonight we are heading out on one of the most famous and storied trade routes in human history. We're going to join a caravan on the Silk Road. We'll leave the great cities of the West behind and journey east, through treacherous mountains and across unforgiving deserts, all in the pursuit of wealth, knowledge, and of course the magnificent fabric that gives the route its name. But we're going to leave behind the romantic notions of Marco Polo and his grand adventures. We're going to discover the brutal, hidden reality of the traders themselves. The immense risks, the constant dangers, and the grinding hardship that was the price of connecting two ends of the world. And let's be perfectly honest, you would not make a good Silk Road merchant. You, who might get stressed about a package being delayed by a day, would find the 2-year transit time for your goods a bit challenging. You, who relies on secure banking and shipping insurance, would find the business model of load your entire net worth onto a camel and hope it doesn't get stolen by bandits to be a high-stress occupation. You'd be ruined before you even cross the first mountain pass. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a simple click for you, but it's a massive show of support for the channel, and it really does keep me going. And as is our tradition, I would love it if you'd post your city or country and the local time in the comments. It's always a wonderful thing to see where everyone in our little community is settling in for the night. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are a merchant, living in one of the great oasis cities of Central Asia. Perhaps the magnificent Samarkand, with its turquoise-domed mosques and bustling bazaars. You are not a poor man. You come from a respected merchant family, a Sogdian, or perhaps a Persian, one of the peoples who for centuries have been the lifeblood of this great transcontinental trade. Your house is comfortable, built around a shaded courtyard with a cooling fountain. But in your world, wealth is not a static thing to be hoarded. It is a current, a river that must be kept in constant motion. To stand still is to fall behind. And the greatest, most profitable, and most dangerous current of all flows east, to the mysterious and wealthy land of the Seres, the land of Silk China. For years, your family has been planning this venture. It is the greatest undertaking of your life. A gamble of immense proportions. You have gathered your family's entire fortune. You have sold property. You have taken on investors, other merchants who are willing to front you capital in exchange for a large share of the potential profits. A transaction recorded on a carefully written contract. The pressure to succeed is immense. If your caravan is successful, your family will be wealthy for a generation. If you fail, you will not only be ruined, but you will bring disgrace and debt upon your entire extended family. The first step is to acquire the goods you will trade. You do not carry gold or silver on this perilous journey. It is too heavy and too tempting for thieves. You carry goods, products from the West that are rare and valuable in the East. You spend months in the bazaars and warehouses, haggling with other merchants. You purchase magnificent cobalt blue glassware from Persia. You buy finely crafted metalwork, bronze mirrors, and silver plates. You invest in bolts of fine woolen cloth and asbestos textiles, a miracle fabric that can be cleaned by throwing it into a fire. You acquire coral from the Mediterranean and amber from the distant Baltic, all of which has already made a long journey to reach your city. Your fortune is no longer in coin. It is a carefully curated collection of fragile, heavy, and valuable objects. Next, you must assemble your caravan. This is a massive logistical undertaking. Your most important investment is in your animals. You buy dozens, perhaps 100 or more, of the magnificent Bactrian camels. These two-humped, shaggy beasts are the undisputed kings of the Silk Road. A common historical fact known to all traders, they are perfectly adapted to the extremes of the desert and the mountains, able to carry enormous loads of up to 500 pounds, and capable of going for days without water. They are expensive, and their health and well-being are paramount to your success. Your lead camel is named Precious Hope. The one next to him is Crippling Debt. It helps to keep your motivations clear. Then you must hire the men who will make this journey with you. You are the owner, the merchant, but you are not the expert on the trail. You hire a caravan master, a Sardavaha, an older, weather-beaten man who has made the journey many times, whose knowledge of the routes, the oases, and the local politics is essential. You hire dozens of camel drivers, rough men who know how to manage the stubborn beasts, and, most importantly, you hire guards. These are mercenaries, often from the nomadic tribes of the steppes. Fierce-looking men armed with bows and sabers. Their loyalty is not to you, but to your silver. You know that you must pay them well and on time, for a disgruntled guard can be more dangerous than any bandit. The final step is the packing. Each camel must be loaded with a perfectly balanced and secured load. The fragile glassware is packed deep in straw-filled crates. The heavy metalwork is carefully distributed. Your personal supplies sacks of flour, barley, dried meat, and precious. Life-saving water skins are all loaded. It is a slow, painstaking process that takes weeks. Historians will one day debate the true nature of your journey. Did merchants like you really travel the entire 4,000-mile length of the Silk Road? The evidence suggests that this was incredibly rare. More likely, the road was a long chain of interconnected markets. You might only travel one great leg of it, perhaps from Samarkand to Kashgar, or from Kashgar to Dunhuang. On the edge of China proper, there, you would sell your Western goods to Chinese merchants, buy your silk, and return, having never completed the entire route. But even this single leg of the journey is a perilous, multi-year undertaking. Finally, the day of departure arrives. The great staging ground outside the city gates is a scene of controlled chaos. Hundreds of camels are groaning and complaining, their drivers shouting curses. The guards are checking their weapons. Families are saying their farewells. The air is thick with dust, with the smell of animals, and with a palpable sense of nervous energy. You say goodbye to your own family. You look at your wife's face, trying to memorize every line. You hold your young son, knowing that by the time you return, if you return, he will be a different person. A boy you barely recognize. The emotional cost of this venture is as high as the financial one. You mount your own camel. The caravan master gives a great shout. A horn blasts, and with a slow, groaning, lurching momentum, the great caravan begins to move. You pass through the city gates, leaving the familiar world of mosques and bazaars and courtyard homes behind you. Before you lies the east. Before you lies a landscape of immense, empty wilderness. You are the CEO of a high-risk mobile startup. Your business model is trade glassware for silk. Your supply chain involves thousands of miles of desert and mountain. And your entire corporate security team is a band of mercenaries whose loyalty is questionable at best. You have packed your family's fortune onto the backs of these complaining, spitting beasts. And you are sending it all out into the vast, unforgiving unknown. The great, perilous gamble has begun. The great gates of Samarkand close behind you, and the familiar sounds and smells of the city are replaced by the soft, rhythmic shuffling of your camel's feet in the dust and the constant, hypnotic jingling of the caravan bells. The initial, thrilling chaos of departure gives way to the slow, grinding, and deeply monotonous reality of the road. You have begun your great gamble, and you now must learn to live by the unwritten laws of the treacherous trail. Your world shrinks to the size of your caravan. It is a slow-moving, self-contained city of about 100 camels and 40 men. Life is governed not by the sun, but by the will of one man, the caravan master, the Sartavaha. He is a weathered old man named Omar, a man whose face is a map of the very lands you are about to cross. His authority is absolute. He decides when you march, when you rest, which route you take, and how the precious water is rationed. His knowledge is the difference between a successful journey and your bleached bones being added to the thousands that already line this road. You are the merchant, the man whose fortune is at stake. But on the trail, you are his subordinate. You treat him with a deep and genuine respect. For your life is in his hands. The caravan has its own rigid hierarchy. You and the few other merchants are the upper class. You ride a camel, rather than walk, and your personal stores of food are slightly better than the common rations. Below, you are the mercenaries you have hired as guards. Fierce, quiet men who keep to themselves. They are a necessary and dangerous tool. You respect their skill but do not fully trust them. At the bottom are the camel drivers, the sarban. They are the ones who do the hardest physical labor, loading and unloading the beasts, tending to their sores, and walking beside them all day. There is a great social chasm between you and them, but you know that your entire enterprise rests on their skill and endurance. Your caravan has a very clear corporate structure. The caravan master is the CEO. You're a vice president of worrying about your money. And the camel drivers are the unpaid interns who do all the actual work. The first few weeks of the journey are through lands that are relatively civilized. You follow established trade routes through the fertile valleys of Transaxiana, passing through small towns and villages. The routine is brutal in its monotony. You wake before dawn. A small fire is made, and a simple breakfast of flatbread and tea is prepared. The camels, who have been grazing during the night, are brought in and forced to kneel, groaning and complaining. As their heavy loads are once again secured to their backs, then the day's march begins. You move at the steady, unvarying pace of a walking camel about 3 miles an hour, for 10 to 12 hours a day. The journey is a great opportunity to really get in touch with your inner thoughts. You have about 12 hours a day of walking next to a smelly camel to do it. After a month, you've contemplated your life, your choices, and every single grain of sand between here and the horizon. At dusk, Omar, the caravan master, finds a suitable place to make camp. A caravanserai if you are lucky, but more often, just a defensible spot with some sparse grazing for the camels. The beasts are unloaded, and the camp is set up with practiced efficiency. A perimeter is established, and your mercenary guards take up their watch. A communal fire is built, and the evening meal is prepared a simple, hearty stew of dried meat and barley. Then, you sleep under the vast, star-filled sky. Your sleep shallow, always half listening for any strange sound in the darkness. And at dawn, the entire process begins again. This is your life. And in this life, you learn the unwritten laws of the trail. The first and most important law concerns water. Water is life, and it is rationed with an iron discipline from the very first day. Each man is allotted a specific amount from the large water skins. And to be caught taking more is a crime that could get you expelled from the caravan. A death sentence in this arid land. The second law is that the road is not free. The Silk Road is not one great Imperial Highway. It is a network of shifting trails that pass through the territories of dozens of different petty kings, local chieftains, and nomadic tribes, and each of these considers the road through their land to be their personal property. At a mountain pass, or a river crossing, you will be stopped by a group of armed men. They are not bandits, not exactly. They are the local toll collectors. You've just paid a road maintenance fee to a local warlord who looks like he's never maintained anything more complicated than his own mustache. It's just part of the cost of doing business. Omar, the caravan master, handles these tense negotiations. He will offer them a gift from your trade goods, a few bolts of cloth, a piece of metalwork. They will demand more. The haggling will be long and tense. A miscalculation, a word of disrespect, could easily lead to violence. You learn to sit quietly on your camel during these encounters, your hand resting on the hilt of your own sword, and let the professionals handle it. The third law is that the health of the caravan is more important than the health of any one man. Sickness is a constant companion on the trail. The food is poor, the water is often questionable, and the physical exhaustion wears down your body's defenses. If a man comes down with a simple fever or a stomach ailment, he is cared for as best as possible, but if he shows the signs of something contagious, something like smallpox or the dreaded plague, a brutal decision must be made. The caravan cannot stop for him, and it cannot risk infection. The sick man will be left behind at the next caravanserai. With a small amount of money and a prayer, you have all accepted this grim reality. It is the price of the journey. Historians will one day debate how safe these routes truly were. During the great periods of imperial stability, the Han Dynasty, or the vast Mongol Empire, the roads were often relatively secure, with military garrisons and fortified inns. But you are traveling in a time of shifting powers. The great empires are distant, and their control out here on the fringes is weak. Your safety is not guaranteed by any state. It is a commodity that you must purchase with tolls, and defend with the swords of your hired guards. You wear on, the landscape becomes harsher. The villages fewer and farther between. The easy part of your journey, the part through the familiar river valleys, is coming to an end. You can see the dark, forbidding line of the desert on the horizon. One evening, as you sit by the campfire, Omar, the caravan master, gathers all the men together. His face is grim in the flickering light. "We have crossed the lands of men," he says. His voice a low rumble. "Tomorrow, we enter the land of the spirits. We enter the great desert. Many caravans have entered that desert. Not all have come out. The water holes are few, and the path is marked by the bones of camels and men who have gone before us. There are sandstorms that can strip the flesh from your bones, and demons that will lead you astray with whispers on the wind." He looks at each of you, his gaze hard. "From this point on, the water ration will be cut in half. We will march longer hours. We will rest less. Your discipline must be absolute. Your trust must be in my knowledge, and in the strength of your camels. The easy road is behind us, the true test of a traveler. The test of the Taklamakan is about to begin." You look out at the vast, dark emptiness of the desert stretching out under the stars. A cold knot of fear tightens in your stomach. You came seeking a fortune in silk. But first, you must survive this ocean of sand. The caravan stands at the edge of the great desert, a place the locals call the Taklamakan, the place of no return. Or, go in and you will not come out. Omar, your caravan master, has spoken his grim warning. The familiar world of towns and streams is behind you. Before you lies a vast, shimmering ocean of sand and rock. An emptiness so profound it seems to swallow the very sky. The easy part of your journey is over. Your entire routine shifts. To travel under the full heat of the midday sun would be suicide. Now, you rest during the day and travel in the cooler hours of the night and the twilight of dawn and dusk. Your days become a blur of fitful, sweaty sleep in the shade of your tent, if you have one, or under a simple canvas awning stretched between two camels. The heat is a physical weight, an oppressive blanket that drains your will and makes even the simple act of breathing an effort. You begin to truly understand your camel. You watch it chew cud with a look of serene indifference, its thick, leathery lips making short work of a thorny bush that would shred your own hands. You watch it drink when you finally reach a well, absorbing an almost impossible amount of water in a matter of minutes. You are starting to deeply appreciate your camel. It can go a week without water, carries 500 pounds without complaint, and seems to enjoy the taste of thorny, inedible bushes. You, on the other hand, are starting to wilt after about 4 hours, as dusk falls. The camp comes alive. The camels are loaded in the cool air. The journey begins. Traveling by night is a strange, ethereal experience. The world is a landscape of silver and black under the brilliant, cold light of the moon and the stars. The only sounds are the soft, plodding footsteps of the camels, the rhythmic creaking of the leather harnesses, and the constant, gentle, almost hypnotic jingle of the caravan bells hung on the lead animals. This sound, you learn, is more than just a decoration. It is a lifeline. It is a beacon that holds the long, snaking line of the caravan together in the darkness. A sound to follow if you get separated. A sound that the old drivers say wards off the evil spirits, the jinn, that haunt the empty places of the world. But the desert has its own gods, and its own special torments. The thirst is a constant, low-level hum of misery that quickly becomes your entire world. The water ration, now cut in half, is a cruel joke. You are given a single cup in the evening and a single cup in the morning. It is never enough. Your mouth is always dry, your tongue thick and sticky. You fantasize about water. You dream of rivers, of rain, of simply submerging your face in a cool, clear spring. The dream is so vivid that you sometimes awaken with the ghost of moisture on your lips, a phantom that vanishes into the dry, dusty reality of your waking life. The landscape is a study in brutal minimalism. The desert offers a stunningly minimalist landscape. The main colors are brown, slightly different brown, and, oh God, I'm so thirsty brown. The variety is breathtaking. Sometimes you cross vast. Flat plains of gravel that stretch to the horizon in every direction, the heat shimmering off the stones. Other times, you enter a world of towering sand dunes. Great. Sculpted waves of orange and yellow sand that shift and change with the wind. To cross the dunes is a special kind of hell. The camels struggle for footing, and you must often dismount and walk, your feet sinking into the soft sand, each step a draining, monumental effort, and you are never truly alone. The trail is marked by the dead. You see the bleached white bones of camels, their skeletons half buried in the sand, their rib cages arching towards the sky like the hulls of wrecked ships. And sometimes, you see the bones of men, a human skull, picked clean by the vultures and scoured by the wind, stares at you with empty eye sockets. You pass the remains of entire caravans that were not as lucky or as well prepared as yours. A grim, constant reminder of the price of failure. Each skeleton is a signpost on the road to ruin, and you walk past them, your heart cold, and you pray that yours will not be the next to mark the trail. The desert plays tricks on your mind. In the heat of the day, you see them, shimmering lakes on the horizon, cool and blue and inviting. You see lush, green oases with waving palm trees. Your heart leaps with a sudden, foolish hope. But Omar, the caravan master, just shakes his head. A trick of the sun, he says, his voice a dry rasp. A devil's lie. There is nothing there. And as you draw closer, the beautiful vision always dissolves into more hot, shimmering air. One afternoon, a new terror appears. A dark, ugly line on the horizon, low to the ground. It is not a mountain range, it is moving. And it is moving towards you with an unnatural speed. Sandstorm. Omar bellows, his voice sharp with an urgency you have never heard before. The disciplined chaos is instant. The drivers shout and curse, forcing the camels to their knees, their bodies forming a living wall. They are positioned with their backs to the approaching storm. You and the other men scramble for the leeward side of the camels, pulling your headscarves across your face, leaving only a narrow slit for your eyes. You lie down, pressing your body against the warm, smelly flank of a camel, and you wait. The storm hits you like a solid object. The world disappears in a roaring, blinding, choking cloud of sand. The wind howls with a sound like a physical scream. The air is so thick with sand and dust that you cannot see the man lying a few feet from you. You cannot breathe without inhaling a lungful of fine, hot grit. The sand stings any tiny patch of exposed skin like 1,000 red-hot needles. It is a total sensory assault, a temporary burial in a world of pure, violent motion. It's a fun, immersive experience where the desert decides to come to you. All at once. It's great for exfoliation, but less great for breathing or seeing. The storm rages for what feels like an eternity, but is probably a few hours. And then, as suddenly as it began, the wind dies down, the air begins to clear. You slowly, painfully, get to your feet, spitting sand from your mouth, shaking it from your clothes, from your hair, from your ears. You look around. The world has been remade. The landscape is completely different. The dunes have shifted. The old trail is gone, buried under a new layer of sand. Your caravan is half buried. Men and camels are digging themselves out, their forms coated in a fine yellow dust. The disorientation is total. It is now that you truly understand the value of your caravan master. Omar, seemingly unfazed, consults the sun, the stars that begin to appear, and some deep internal map. And he gives the order to march in a new direction. Your life once again rests on his ancient knowledge. You pass through a region of strange, wind-carved rocks, the yardangs. The wind, over thousands of years, has sculpted the sandstone into bizarre, mushroom-like shapes and long, parallel ridges. It looks like a ruined, alien city. As the wind blows through the narrow gaps between these rock formations, it creates a strange, moaning, flute-like sound. A sound like 1,000 whispering voices. The drivers call this the Valley of the Singing Demons, and they hurry the camels through it, their eyes wide with superstitious fear. After weeks that feel like a lifetime, you finally emerge from the other side of the desert. You are a different man. You are skeletal. Your skin the color of dark, cracked leather, your eyes sunken in your head. You are half mad from the monotony, the thirst, and the sun. But you have survived. You have crossed the great ocean of sand. You see the first signs of life on the horizon, a line of hardy green tamarisks. And beyond them, the jagged, snow-capped peaks of a great mountain range. The desert is behind you. But as you look up at the towering, icy peaks of the Pamirs, you know that the law of the trail is simple every time you survive one hell. You are simply delivered to the gates of the next. You have survived the ocean of sand. You have walked into the place of no return and found your way out. Though at the cost of your strength, your spirit, and a few members of the caravan who could not endure. The desert is now behind you, a hazy memory of thirst and shimmering, sun-bleached horror. But as you look up, your next hell reveals itself, towering into the sky. The Pamir Mountains. The Persians call them Bami Dunya, the roof of the world. They are a massive, jagged, and seemingly impassable wall of ice and rock that stands between you and the riches of the East. Your journey transforms completely once again. You had grown accustomed to the searing heat. Now you must face a piercing, bone-deep cold. You had grown accustomed to the flat monotony of the land. Now you must face the dizzying vertigo of the high passes. Omar, the caravan master, gathers the survivors once more. His face is even more grim than it was at the edge of the desert. The desert tests a man's endurance, he says. His voice raspy in the thin, cold air. These mountains test his courage. There is no room for error here. A single misplaced footstep does not just kill you, it can kill the man behind you and the camel below you. Keep your wits sharp, watch your footing, and pray to your gods. For we are now entering their kingdom. The ascent begins. The trail is a narrow, winding ledge, clinging to the side of the mountain like a thin thread. On one side is a sheer wall of rock rising straight up. On the other, a vertical drop of thousands of feet to the jagged stones below. You are no longer riding your camel. The path is too dangerous. You must walk, leading your animal. Your heart a cold knot of fear in your chest. The fear is your constant companion. It is not the acute, panicked terror of a sandstorm, but a low-level, persistent, gnawing dread. Every step is a calculation. You do not dare to look down. You keep your eyes fixed on the narrow path ahead, on the weary feet of the man in front of you. You can feel the emptiness, the void, beside you, pulling at you. The air grows thinner, colder. Every breath is an effort, a shallow gas that does not seem to fill your lungs. You feel a dull headache throb behind your eyes, and a slight nausea churns in your stomach. You are not alone. You see the other camel drivers, these tough men of the steppes, panting for breath, their faces pale. This is the mountain sickness, an affliction for which your world has no name, but whose symptoms are all too real. It slows your thoughts, makes your limbs feel heavy and clumsy in this lethally dangerous environment. Clumsiness is a death sentence. You have traded the torment of thirst for a new kind of agony. The air up here is so thin it feels like you're breathing through a thick cloth. It's great for character building and for inducing a splitting headache. The camels suffer, too. These magnificent beasts. The kings of the desert were not made for this world of ice and rock. They struggle for footing on the stony paths. Their broad, padded feet, perfect for sand, are unsure on the loose scree. A deep misery seems to settle in their large, sad eyes. One of the camels in the line ahead, carrying one of your precious crates of Persian glassware, loses its footing. You hear a panicked, almost human-like cry as it stumbles on the edge of the precipice. Its driver, a man named Hassan, lunges for it, trying to pull it back, for a terrifying moment. It seems the beast will drag them both into the abyss. But other men rush to help, pulling on the ropes, and after a desperate, scrambling struggle, the trembling camel is brought back onto the path. Its cargo is damaged, and you know that a portion of your fortune is now nothing but shards of broken glass. But you are too relieved to care. The cold is a relentless enemy. At night, the temperature plummets far below freezing. You wear every piece of clothing you own. You wrap yourself in thick wool blankets. But the cold seems to seep into the very marrow of your bones. You huddle against the camels for a share of their body heat. They're pungent. Animal smell, now a comfort. The water in your waterskins freezes solid. A fire is difficult to start and maintain in the thin air. And wood is a forgotten luxury. Your fuel is once again the dried dung of the animals, which you have been carefully collecting and carrying. You pass through a world of brutal, stark beauty. The snow-capped peaks stand out like jagged white teeth against a sky that is a deep, almost black, blue. You see glaciers, vast, slow-moving rivers of ancient ice. Their surface is a maze of deadly crevasses. But this beauty is menacing. You hear a distant, low rumble, like thunder. And Omar points to a far-off slope. You see a cloud of snow and rock cascading down the mountainside. An avalanche, a reminder that these mountains are alive, and that they can kill you from miles away, without warning or reason. One day, as you are navigating a high pass, the snow begins to fall. It starts as light flurries, but quickly thickens into a blinding blizzard. The wind howls through the rocks, and visibility drops to a few feet. You are trapped in a world of swirling, disorienting white. The caravan halts, unable to proceed. You and the other men huddle together, a miserable knot of humanity and animals. While the storm rages around you, the cold becomes intense, a sharp, piercing pain. You feel the sensation draining from your fingers and your toes. You know a frostbite, like the ice bite, and you try to move, to keep the blood flowing, but your body is too weary. The storm lasts for 2 days. 2 days of being trapped in a cold. White Hell, one of the mercenary guards, a tough man of the steppe who survived the desert, does not survive the cold. He simply sits down against a rock and never gets up again. He does not complain. He just lets the life fade out of him. You help bury his body in a shallow, snow-filled grave, the rocky ground too hard to dig any deeper. There is no ceremony, just a short prayer from Omar, and a grim reminder of the fragility of life in these high places. Finally, the storm breaks. The sky clears to a brilliant, painful blue, and the sun glints off a world of sparkling, fresh fallen snow, its beauty belying its lethal nature. The caravan moves on once more, the survivors slow and exhausted. The trail is now even more treacherous, hidden beneath a blanket of new snow. Historians will debate the exact routes caravans like yours took through these mountains. The records are few, and the trails have shifted over the centuries. Some will argue you took the high Kunjarab Pass. Others will contend a more southerly route through the Wakhan corridor was more likely. One obscure but true detail from the accounts of travelers in this era is the frequent necessity of unloading the camels and hand-carrying the goods across the most dangerous sections. You come to such a place, a natural ice bridge spanning a deep, dark crevasse. It is too narrow and too slick for the camels to cross. You must unload your cargo. Every crate, every bale, every sack must be taken off the animals and carried by hand across the frozen bridge. It is a tense, exhausting process. You carry a precious crate of glassware on your back, your feet shuffling carefully on the slippery ice, your heart hammering against your ribs. One misstep would send you and a portion of your master's fortune plunging into the abyss. After weeks at the roof of the world, you begin the descent. Going down is nearly as dangerous as going up, but every step takes you into thicker, warmer air. The dull headache you have had for weeks begins to subside. You can take a deep breath again without feeling like your lungs are being squeezed. You finally emerge from the icebound world. You descend into green valleys where trees grow and rivers flow freely. You have crossed the Pamers. You have survived the hell of ice. Just as you survived the hell of sand, the caravan halts in a sheltered valley for several days of rest and recovery. You look back at the snow-capped peaks you have just conquered. They look beautiful and serene from this distance. Their beauty a mask for their cruelty. You have lost a man. You have lost several camels. A portion of your cargo is damaged, but you have made it through. Omar gathers the men one last time before you proceed. The mountains have tested your courage, he says. And you have passed, but do not grow complacent. The road ahead has its own dangers. We are approaching the oasis cities, the great hubs of the Silk Road. These places offer comfort, but comfort can be a trap. There are diseases in those cities we have never known, and thieves more cunning than any mountain bandit. Keep your wits about you. The journey is not over. You look east, down the road that leads to Kashgar, the first of the great oasis cities. You yearn for the comfort of a real bed, of a hot meal that is not dried meat and barley stew. But you also feel a new anxiety. You have survived the trials of nature. Now you must face the trials of men. You have survived the hell of ice. You have descended from the roof of the world, a handful of survivors. Your bodies gaunt and weary. Your spirits tempered by the extreme hardships you have endured as you come down from the high mountain valleys. The landscape changes. The air grows thick and warm again. You see green, fertile land, trees, and signs of civilization. And then you see it on the horizon, rising from the plains at the edge of the great desert. It is Kashgar, a great oasis city, a jewel of the Silk Road. The sight of its high, mud-brick walls and the promise of the comfort within is a vision of paradise. After months in the desolate wilderness of the desert and the mountains, arriving at a city like Kashgar is an overwhelming sensory experience. You pass through the great gates, and you are plunged into a world of noise, and color, and life. The narrow streets are a teeming, chaotic river of humanity. You see merchants from a dozen different lands, turbaned Persians, fair-haired Sogdians like yourself, hawk-nosed Arabs, even a few strange, pale-faced men from the far-off Roman Empire, which they call Byzantium. You hear a babel of languages, a symphony of haggling and shouting. The air is thick with new smells the sharp, sweet scent of spices you have never encountered before, the aroma of roasting meat, the perfume of exotic flowers, all mixed with the familiar, earthy smell of camels and dust. Omar, your caravan master, guides your weary procession through the crowded streets to your destination, the caravanserai. This is a common historical feature of every great city on the Silk Road, a fortress of commerce, a sanctuary for travelers like you. It is a massive square, walled compound with a single, heavily guarded gate. Inside, a vast open courtyard is already filled with hundreds of other camels, horses, and donkeys. Around the courtyard are 2 stories of arched alcoves and rooms, stables and storerooms on the ground floor, and small, simple rooms for the merchants and travelers on the second. You unload your camels for what feels like the last time. Your precious cargo is secured in a locked storeroom. Your animals are taken to the stables, and you are shown to your room. It is a small, windowless cell with a simple sleeping platform, but after months of sleeping on the hard ground, it feels like the most luxurious chamber in a king's palace. The caravanserai is a 5-star resort for the 9th century. It has rooms, a courtyard for your camel to spit in, and a thriving population of bacteria from every corner of Eurasia. It's a real cultural exchange. For the first few days, you allow yourself to succumb to the dangerous comfort of the city. You eat a hot meal, a real meal of roasted lamb and fresh, leavened bread, and it is a revelation. You drink your fill of clean water from the city's well. You wash the accumulated grime of the mountains and the desert from your body. You sleep in a real bed, a deep and profound sleep, untroubled by the cold or the need to stand guard. It feels as if your ordeal is over. But you soon learn that the city is not a sanctuary. It is simply a new kind of wilderness, with its own unique predators and its own hidden poisons. The dangers here are not the sandstorm or the avalanche, but the more subtle and more treacherous dangers of men. Your first duty is to resupply your caravan. You need fresh provisions, new water skins, and perhaps a few replacement camels for the ones you lost in the mountains. This means you must enter the world of the Kashgar Bazaar, and you must negotiate. Every merchant you meet is a potential rival. He sees you as a traveler, flush with capital, and his goal is to separate you from your silver with maximum efficiency. The price of barley is suddenly 3 times what it was a month ago. The water skins are of poor quality, patched and old. You must haggle for every single thing. A long, exhausting battle of wits. Business networking is crucial. You spend your evening making friends with a local merchant. You're not sure if he's giving you valuable information about the road ahead or trying to sell you a cursed amulet. It's probably both. You must also deal with the city's ruler, the local Khan, who controls this oasis. Demands a heavy tax on all goods passing through his city. You must present yourself at his court. Offer him a substantial gift from your trade goods, a few fine pieces of Persian glassware, perhaps, and pay the required tariffs. To refuse is unthinkable. The Khan could impound your entire caravan and throw you in his dungeon. His friendship and a signed document granting you safe passage through his territory are commodities you must purchase. And the price is high. But the greatest danger in the Oasis City is not the merchants or the rulers. It is disease. The caravanserai. This great melting pot of humanity is a perfect incubator. You are living in close quarters with men and animals who have come from every corner of the known world. They have brought their local sicknesses with them, germs against which you have no natural defense. The water in the city well can be contaminated. The food in the market can be spoiled. A few weeks into your stay, one of your camel drivers, a strong young man named Ali, comes down with a fever at first. You think it is just the exhaustion of the journey, but the fever worsens. He is seized by violent stomach cramps and a debilitating, watery flux. It is dysentery, a common and often deadly sickness in these crowded, unsanitary cities. You hire a local physician who prescribes a useless herbal concoction and declares that the man's humors are out of balance. Ali dies a few days later, his body completely dehydrated. You have dragged him halfway across the world, only to lose him to a bad drink of water in this supposed haven of safety. You are exposed to a world of new and deadly diseases, and you have no idea how to fight them. You also learn that you must guard your cargo with a new kind of vigilance. The city is full of thieves, from petty cutpurses to organized gangs who specialize in looting the storerooms of the caravanserais. You must hire local guards to watch your own storeroom. In addition to your own mercenaries, you are paying men to watch other men. A pyramid of mistrust. One night, your guards catch a thief trying to pry open the lock on your storeroom. He is given a swift, brutal beating and thrown out into the street. The incident is a sharp reminder that the comfort of the city is an illusion. You are an island of wealth in a sea of poverty, and you are a tempting target. As a merchant, you spend your time in the caravanserai gathering intelligence. You speak with other merchants who have just arrived from the east. You ask them about the road ahead. Which routes are safest? Which tribes are demanding the highest tolls? Are the bandits active in the mountain passes beyond the city? The information is often contradictory. A fellow Sogdian merchant might give you honest advice. A Persian rival might deliberately mislead you, sending you down a more dangerous path to eliminate a business competitor. You must learn to sift through the rumors, the lies, and the half-truths. Finally, after a month in Kashgar, your caravan is resupplied and rested. It is time to leave. As you prepare for your departure, you feel a strange sense of relief. The Oasis City, which seemed like a paradise upon your arrival, now feels like a cage, a place of sickness, intrigue, and deceit. You find yourself looking forward to the simple, honest brutality of the wilderness again. Out there, the dangers are clear: the sun, the cold, the emptiness. The enemy is nature, and you understand its rules. Here, in the world of men, the dangers are hidden behind friendly smiles and polite words, and the rules are constantly changing. You lead your reprovisioned caravan out of the gates of Kashgar, heading east once more. The next great desert, another unforgiving stretch of the Taklamakan, lies before you. Your journey is far from over, but you have learned a valuable and brutal lesson. The Silk Road is not just a road of sand and stone. It is a road that runs through the treacherous and unpredictable landscape of the human heart. You have left the dangerous comfort of the Oasis City behind. You are back on the trail, back in the vast, open wilderness. The memory of the city, with its crowds, its diseases, and its predatory merchants, begins to fade, replaced by the familiar, honest hardships of the road. There's a certain relief in this. Out here, the dangers are simpler. You know the rules. But as you enter a region of narrow, rocky canyons and twisting mountain passes, a new kind of tension settles over the caravan. Omar, the caravan master, orders the guards to be on high alert. The mercenaries, who had grown lax in the city, now ride on the flanks of the caravan, their bows strung, their eyes constantly scanning the high ridges above you. The camel drivers are quiet, their usual banter silenced. Everyone knows that this is bandit country. This is the lawless no-man's land between the jurisdictions of two different warlords. This is where caravans disappear. The attack, when it comes, is a masterpiece of sudden, violent surprise. You're riding your camel, lulled into a state of hypnotic drowsiness by the rhythmic swaying of the beast and the heat of the afternoon sun. One moment, the only sound is the jingling of the caravan bells and the soft plodding of the camel's feet. The next moment, The air is filled with a high, whistling sound, like angry hornets, followed by the sickening thwack of arrows striking flesh and cargo. A camel in front of you lets out a gurgling scream and collapses, a black-fletched arrow protruding from its neck. One of your mercenary guards slumps forward on his horse, an arrow in his back. Chaos erupts. The camels panic, their loud, frightened roars echoing off the canyon walls. Bandits to arms form the circle. Omar's voice bellows, cutting through the chaos. This is the moment your hired guards earn their pay. They move with a brutal efficiency. They fire their own powerful composite bows up at the ridges, providing covering fire. The camel drivers, shouting and cursing, struggle to control their panicked animals, forcing them to their knees in a tight circle, their bodies and their bulky cargo creating a living temporary fortress. You, the merchant, are in the center of this circle, your heart hammering against your ribs. You dismount from your camel, drawing the short, curved sword that you have carried for months but have never had to use. Your hands are slick with sweat. Your primary combat skill is haggling over the price of textiles. But now you must prepare to fight for your life. The bandits pour down from the rocks above. A wave of fierce, wild-looking men on small, hardy mountain ponies. They are tribesmen. Their faces sun-darkened, their clothes a mixture of leather and rough-spun wool. They are not a disciplined army. They are a pack of wolves descending on a fat sheep. They circle your defensive position, whooping and screaming, firing arrows into your circle of camels. Another camel goes down. A driver cries out, clutching a bloody arm. Your own guards are firing back, their aim steady and professional. You see one of the bandits tumble from his horse, an arrow in his chest. This is the brutal reality of the Silk Road, a historical fact often lost in the romantic tales. Banditry was endemic. Your caravan is a slow-moving treasure chest in a land without laws. Your only protection is the protection you pay for. Historians will later debate the identity of these bandits. Were they simply opportunistic criminals? Or were they, as was often the case, local tribesmen whose traditional lands were being crossed, whose grazing was being consumed, and whose way of life was being disrupted by the great caravans? Were their raids an act of simple theft, or a form of political resistance? A violent toll-taking from the great empires that sponsored this trade? You do not know. You only know that they are trying to kill you and take your fortune. The fight intensifies. The initial chaos of the ambush gives way to a grim, desperate battle. The bandits, seeing that they cannot break your defensive circle with arrows alone, dismount and charge on foot. Their swords and axes held high, they rush your wall of kneeling camels, trying to find a gap. Your guards meet them. Their professional skill a stark contrast to the bandits' wild ferocity. You hear the sharp, percussive clang of sword against sword, the grunts of men exerting themselves, the sharp cries of the wounded. A bandit. A big man with a wild beard and a crazed look in his eye. Breaks through a gap between two camels and comes straight at you. Time seems to slow down. He raises his axe. You see his stained teeth as he screams a war cry. You are a merchant, not a soldier. But the instinct for survival is a powerful one. You raise your own sword, a clumsy, desperate parry. The force of his blow almost knocks the sword from your hand, a jarring shock that runs up your entire arm. He stumbles past you, and before you can recover, one of your mercenary guards drives a spear into his back. The bandit collapses without a sound. You stand there, trembling. The smell of blood and sweat suddenly thicken your nostrils. You discover a new, secondary skill called flailing in terror. It's surprisingly effective. The fight is short and savage. The bandits are opportunists, not professional soldiers. They are looking for easy plunder, not a costly pitched battle. Your guards are well armed and disciplined. After a few more of their number fall, the bandits' nerve breaks. They grab their wounded, scramble back to their horses, and disappear back into the rocks as quickly as they appeared. A profound, ringing silence descends on the canyon. broken only by the groans of your own wounded men and the pained cries of the injured camels. The attack is over. You have survived. But the victory is a costly one. You take stock of the damage. 2 of your mercenary guards are dead, men whose names you barely knew but whose skill you depended on. 4 of your camel drivers are wounded, 1 of them seriously. 3 of your precious camels are dead, their cargo of glassware and textiles riddled with arrows. Your profit margin has just been significantly reduced by arrow-related damages. Now begins the grim work of the aftermath. You have no doctor. You are the doctor. You tear strips from a bolt of clean linen to use as bandages. You pour some of your precious drinking wine, a mild antiseptic, onto the wounds of the injured men. You stitch a deep gash on a man's arm, closed with a common needle and thread. A clumsy, agonizing piece of battlefield surgery. You do what you can, and you pray to your gods that it will be enough, that the wounds will not fester into the deadly infections that are so common in this world without cleanliness. You bury your dead in shallow graves by the side of the trail, piling rocks on top to keep the scavengers away. There is no time for proper ceremony. Omar recites a short prayer, and then you must move on. To linger here is to invite another attack. The caravan gets underway again. The mood is somber and grim. The jingling of the caravan bells no longer sounds cheerful and hypnotic. It sounds like a funeral dirge. The illusion of safety is gone. You now know, in a visceral, undeniable way, that the greatest danger on this road is not the desert sun or the mountain cold. It is the simple, brutal fact that in the lawless places of the world, another man's desperate hunger for what you have can erupt at any moment in a sudden, terrifying fury of bandit swords. You have survived. But the road ahead seems longer and darker than ever before. The caravan moves on. A wounded animal licking its sores. The mood is grim. The memory of the bandit attack is a fresh, raw wound. You lost 2 good guards and a driver, and more importantly, to the cold calculus of your venture. You lost 3 camels and their precious cargo. The potential profit from your journey has taken a serious blow. Omar, the caravan master, is pragmatic. The desert takes its toll, he says one evening by the fire. The bandits take theirs. The road always demands a tax. The question is how we pay it. He tells you that a few days' journey ahead lies a small, remote trading post, a place not found on most maps. It is not a place for silk or glass, but for a different, more volatile kind of trade. It is a place, he says, where you can recoup your losses, a place where you can acquire new goods that are valuable, self-transporting, and require minimal packing. You do not understand at first, but as you approach the outpost, a collection of low, mud brick buildings huddled around a jealously guarded well, you see the nature of the merchandise. You have come to a slave market. You have now discovered the darkest and most brutal secret of the Silk Road. You had thought of this great road as a conduit for luxury goods, for culture, for ideas. And it is all of those things. But it is also, and has been for centuries, a great, merciless conveyor of human flesh. This is not a secret you can ignore, a side business you can choose not to participate in. In the brutal economy of the trail, it is simply a part of the trade. And today, you will become a part of it. The market is a dusty, walled compound, presided over by a local chieftain who has grown rich by raiding the nomadic tribes of the northern steppes. The goods are displayed in a long, miserable line. They are men, women, and children. Their hands bound, their faces a mixture of terror, defiance, and a deep, hollow despair. They are Turkic tribespeople, captured in a recent skirmish. They are people from a mountain village who could not pay their tribute. They are human beings, and they are being sold like livestock. You watch as a potential buyer. another merchant, inspects them. He forces a man's mouth open to check his teeth. He runs his hands over a young boy's arms and legs. Assessing his strength, he makes a woman walk back and forth. Judging her health and her build, the process is utterly dehumanizing. It is the same way you inspected your camels back in Samarkand. You feel a flicker of disgust, of pity. This is a violation of something fundamental. But Omar and the other merchants in your party are all business. They are assessing the value of the assets. They are calculating the potential for profit. And you, the man who has his entire family fortune tied up in this venture. Feel the cold. Hard logic of their position begin to seep into your own heart. You have suffered losses. Your venture is at risk. This is a way to mitigate that risk. This is business. Due to recent losses in the glassware division, your company is diversifying its portfolio. The new acquisition is in the human resources sector. Specifically, you are now a human resources trafficker. Your caravan pools its resources and purchases a dozen slaves, 10 men and 2 women. They are relatively inexpensive here, so close to the source. Further down the road, in the great cities of Persia or the Caliphate, they will be worth a small fortune. Turkic men are highly prized as military slaves. The Gilman, known for their toughness and loyalty once they are seasoned, the women are valued for their skills in weaving, or as domestic servants and concubines. It is a sound investment. The transaction is completed. The chieftain is paid. And you are now a slave owner. You are a master. The dozen people you have just purchased are your property. They are chained together and marched back to your camp. The journey changes immediately. You now have a new kind of cargo, a human cargo that must be guarded constantly. They are not willing participants in your venture. They are your prisoners. At night, they are chained or kept under heavy guard. They are given the barest minimum of food and water, just enough to keep them alive and healthy enough to be marketable at your destination. To give them more would be to cut into your profits. To allow them to become strong would be to invite rebellion. You try not to look at them as people. You try to see them as Omar does as merchandise, as walking coins. But it is difficult. You see the hatred and the despair in their eyes. You hear them weeping quietly at night. You see a husband and a wife, sold together, clinging to each other, their only comfort in a world of absolute misery. One of the men, a tall, proud warrior, refuses to eat. It is an act of passive defiance. His only remaining weapon. Omar is pragmatic. A dead slave has no value, he says. He orders the guards to hold the man down while one of them forces a mixture of water and barley mush down his throat. The man chokes and sputters, but he is forced to swallow. His defiance is broken. You are learning a lot about personnel management. The key is to maintain high morale, and your guards have found that nothing boosts the morale of the group quite like publicly flogging anyone who complains. This brutal trade in human lives is a historical fact of the Silk Road, one that is often glossed over in the romantic narratives. For centuries, it was a major artery of the global slave trade, moving people in all directions: Europeans, Slavs, Africans, Turks, Persians. Chinese all were at some point. Both the traders and the traded. Sogdian merchants like yourself were famous, or infamous, for their deep involvement in the business. Historians will one day debate the scale of this trade. Was it a niche market? Or was it, as some evidence suggests, one of the most profitable and foundational aspects of the entire Silk Road economy? The evidence is difficult to find, unlike pottery or silk. Human beings leave few archaeological traces, but the textual evidence, the contracts, the letters, the legal codes, all point to a vast, sprawling, and brutal enterprise. You, however, are not thinking of the grand sweep of history. You are thinking of the here and now. You are thinking of the extra guards you have to post at night, You are thinking of the extra water being consumed from your precious limited supply, and you are thinking of the look in the eyes of the woman you now own. A look of such profound, bottomless hatred that it makes you shiver. One night, a few weeks after leaving the slave market, one of the male slaves makes a desperate bid for freedom. He manages to slip his bonds and makes a run for it into the darkness of the desert. The alarm is raised instantly. The mercenary guards, mounted on their swift horses, give chase. They are professionals. They return in less than an hour, dragging the recaptured slave behind a horse. He is brought into the center of the camp. Omar gathers everyone, your men and the other slaves. To witness the punishment, justice on the trail is swift and absolute. There is no trial, no appeal. The man is tied to a spare wagon wheel. He is flogged by the guards until his back is a ruin and he loses consciousness. He is not killed. A dead slave cannot be sold, but he is broken. His body and his spirit. A living lesson to the others. You watch this brutal spectacle, and you feel a chilling transformation within yourself. The pity you once felt has been replaced by a cold, hard pragmatism. This man, by trying to reclaim his own life, has endangered your property and your investment. You find yourself nodding in approval at the punishment. He deserved it. He was a bad investment. You look at your new human property. Huddled together in fear, you look at the vast, dark road ahead. You came east seeking a fortune in a beautiful, exotic fabric. You have learned on this brutal journey that the most common and most profitable commodity on this road is not silk, but human misery. And you are now one of its traders. You are a slaver now. The moral line you would never have imagined crossing has been left behind you in the dust of that remote trading post. You tell yourself it was a matter of business, a pragmatic necessity to recoup your losses. But as you look at the dozen human beings, your new property, trudging along in chains behind your camels, you feel a coldness in your heart that has nothing to do with the desert night. The caravan moves on, its cargo now heavier with both treasure and transgression. You have survived the desert, the mountains, and the bandits. You begin to feel a certain hard-won confidence, a belief that you have faced the worst the road has to offer, and have proven yourself its master. This is a foolish and dangerous thought. You have only faced the visible enemies. Now you must face the invisible ones. You are about to learn that the most dangerous commodity traded on the Silk Road is not a physical object. It is pestilence. It begins in the new slaves. They are from a different land, a different people. Their bodies are accustomed to different ailments, and the hardship of their capture and their journey has left them weak. Their defense is low. One of the women begins to cough, a dry, hacking sound. A few days later, she has a fever. Omar, the caravan master, dismisses it as a simple road sickness. She is given water and left to endure it. Then, one of your own camel drivers, a man from your own city of Samarkand, develops the same cough. Then another. Within a week, a half-dozen men in the caravan are sick. Both your hired men and your new slaves. The sickness is a great equalizer, indifferent to the distinction between property and owner. The symptoms are terrifying. It begins with a high fever and a pounding headache. Then comes the cough and a strange, mottled red rash that spreads across the body. Small blisters appear, which soon fill with a thick, cloudy fluid. It is smallpox, a disease that has swept through the cities of your world for generations, but one that this caravan has, until now, been blessedly free from. The caravan, which has been a self-contained, mobile world, now becomes a floating, mobile pest house. The close quarters, the shared water skins, the lack of sanitation, the very things that define your life on the trail become the perfect mechanisms for spreading the disease. The caravan's public health strategy for dealing with a deadly epidemic is to hope it goes away on its own. So far, The strategy is not yielding positive results. You try to fight it with the knowledge you have. Omar, who has seen sickness on the road many times, orders the sick to be isolated at the back of the caravan, but it is a futile gesture. The disease is already among you. In the air you all breathe, on the hands that share the same food. You have no understanding of germs, of contagion. You see the sickness as a result of a foul air, a miasma, or as a curse. Perhaps brought upon the caravan by the bad spirits of the slaves you have taken on. There is no real medicine. The caravan's medical kit consists of a few herbal remedies for common ailments and a belief in the power of prayer. The men wear amulets to ward off the evil spirits they believe are the cause of the sickness. The prayers are constant, but the disease is indifferent to your gods. Men begin to die. The first to go is one of the slaves, then one of your own drivers. They die in a high fever, their bodies covered in the hideous pustules. Their deaths are quiet, miserable affairs. They are wrapped in their blankets and buried in shallow graves in the sand by the side of the trail. The caravan does not stop for long. It cannot. To linger in one place is to invite other dangers. You realize, with a dawning horror, that the Silk Road is not just a path for goods, it is a great, pulsing artery for disease. This is a common historical fact of your time. The road connects the great disease pools of China, India, Persia, and the Mediterranean. A sickness that begins in one can, and will, travel the length of the continent, carried in the lungs of a traveler or the fur of a rat hiding in a bale of silk. The greatest plague in human history, the Black Death, will one day travel this very same route from its origins in the east to the heart of Europe, leaving a trail of millions of dead. You are an unwitting pioneer in the globalization of pestilence. The cargo you carry, your precious investment, may itself be the source of your doom. This is an obscure and terrible irony. The fleas carrying the plague can live for weeks in the folds of a bolt of woolen cloth. The smallpox virus can survive on a surface for days. The very goods you are risking your life to transport could be a Trojan horse, carrying an invisible army of death into your own ranks. You're carrying a fortune in silks, spices, and a new, exciting strain of a virulent disease that you'll be trading at the next city. It's all about diversifying your product line. The morale of the caravan collapses. The men are terrified. They look at each other with suspicion. Every cough, every sneeze, sends a ripple of fear through the group. The sick are now seen not as comrades to be pitied, but as a source of mortal danger. The healthy men are forced to do the work of the sick, and the entire caravan slows down. Its pace now dictated by the steady progress of the disease. You are now a weaker, slower target, and the fear of bandits returns. Layered on top of the fear of the sickness, historians and epidemiologists will one day debate the precise role the Silk Road played in the great pandemics of history. They will trace the genetic lineage of pathogens, trying to map their ancient journeys. They will argue whether the spread of disease was an unavoidable consequence of global trade, or if it was exacerbated by specific conditions. But you are not concerned with these grand theories. You are living the terrifying reality. You survive. By sheer luck. Your body does not succumb to the fever, but you are a leader of a caravan of ghosts. By the time the sickness has burned its way through your company, a quarter of your men are dead, 2 of your hired guards, 3 of your camel drivers, and 4 of your newly purchased slaves. Their market value reduced to nothing. Their bodies buried in the anonymous sand. The survivors are gaunt, weak, and demoralized. The caravan limps on, a shadow of its former self. You have been through the fire of the desert, the ice of the mountains, the swords of the bandits, and now you have passed through the invisible fire of a pestilence. You have a new and profound understanding of the dangers of this road. You realize that you are not just a trader of goods. You are an importer and exporter of sickness. You are a merchant of death. And the price can sometimes be your own life. The road ahead, leading to the great markets of China, still stretches on. But the fortune you hope to find there now seems a small and tawdry thing compared to the simple. Precious treasure of a healthy breath. After months, perhaps more than a year since you left the familiar gates of Samarkand, you finally arrive. After surviving one last desert, a desolate stretch of gravel and wind. You see it. It is not a green oasis, but something even more astonishing, a wall. A spur of the Great Wall of China. A massive rammed earth fortress and watchtower. An unmistakable sign that you have reached the edge of a different world. The fringe of the Celestial Empire. You arrive at a gateway city like Dunhuang, a vital trade hub poised between the desert and China proper. The city is a new universe. The architecture is different. All curved roofs and tiered pagodas. The clothes of the people are different. Vibrant robes of silk and cotton. The faces are different. You are a stranger in a strange land, and you feel it immediately. You cannot simply set up a stall in the market and begin trading. You are a foreign merchant, a barbarian in the eyes of the locals, and you must submit to the regulations of a complex and powerful bureaucracy. Omar, the caravan master, who has been here before, guides you through the process. First, you must present yourself to the local governor, an imperial official sent from the capital to oversee trade. The meeting takes place in a formal audience hall. You must perform the kowtow, bowing low to the official. Everything is done through translators. The language of power here is one you do not understand. Your goods, everything you have arduously carried across a continent, are unloaded for inspection. The Chinese officials examine every crate. They weigh, they measure, and they assess your cargo for the purposes of taxation. The process is slow, opaque, and you are filled with a constant sense of being cheated. You must pay a heavy tariff, and a significant portion of your potential profit vanishes before you have sold a single item, before you can sell your goods. You have to fill out a lot of paperwork with the local authorities. The forms are written on bamboo strips, and you're pretty sure one of them asks for your mother's maiden name. It's a very thorough process. Trade here, you quickly realize, is not a free market. Foreign merchants like you are restricted to a specific quarter of the city, a foreign market, and you may only conduct business through officially sanctioned intermediaries. This is a common historical fact. Trade on the Silk Road, especially with China, was heavily controlled to protect the interests of the empire. Finally, after days of waiting and paying fees, you are permitted to meet the Chinese silk merchants. They are a powerful guild, a group of wealthy, shrewd men whose families have dominated this trade for generations. The negotiation is a delicate and dangerous dance. It does not begin with haggling. It begins with a tea ceremony. You are invited to an elegant tea house. You sit on silk cushions. A woman in a beautiful gown performs a silent, intricate ritual of pouring the tea. You drink from tiny cups. No one speaks of business. They speak of poetry, of the weather, of the beauty of a landscape painting on the wall. This is a ritual designed to build rapport, to size up your opponent. Then the negotiation begins. Conducted indirectly through intermediaries, you display your goods the remaining Persian glassware, the bronze mirrors, the bolts of wool. The silk merchants examine them with a critical, expert eye. They point out every flaw, every tiny crack in a glass vase, every imperfection in the weave of a cloth. They are devaluing your goods. Then, they display their wares, and you forget to breathe. The bolts of silk, cloth in the most vibrant colors you have ever seen, a deep crimson like blood, an imperial yellow, a peacock blue. The fabric is so light it is almost weightless, so soft it feels like running water in your hands. This is the prize? This is the reason for the desert, the ice, the disease, and the bandits. This is what will make your family rich. The haggling lasts for days. It is a battle of wits, a game of offers and counter-offers, of feigned indifference and subtle signals. You make an offer, they laugh and make a ridiculously low counteroffer. You leave in a show of feigned anger. They invite you back for more tea the next day. Negotiating with the silk merchants is a very subtle art. It involves drinking a lot of tea, saying very little, and trying to read your opponent's mind. It's like a high-stakes poker game, but with more ceremony and better hydration. Economic historians will debate the balance of trade on the Silk Road. The traditional view, inherited from the Romans, was that it was a massive drain of Western gold and silver, all flowing east for luxuries like silk. But more recent scholarship argues the trade was far more balanced. The West exported valuable goods like glass, metalwork, and especially the strong. Large horses from the Fergana Valley, which China desperately needed for its military. Finally, after days of this delicate dance, a deal is struck. A certain number of your crates of glass and cloth will be exchanged for a certain number of bolts of silk. You feel a massive wave of relief. But there is one last grim piece of business. Your human cargo. The slaves you purchased at that remote outpost must now be sold. They are sold to the agents of wealthy officials or military commanders. The inspection is swift and humiliating. The families are broken apart. The husband you saw clinging to his wife is sold to one buyer, she to another. They are led away in different directions, never to see each other again. You receive a good pouch of silver for them. The profit is high, and you feel a coldness in your heart, an emptiness that no amount of profit can fill. Your business is complete. Your camels are now being loaded with the precious bolts of silk. You have succeeded financially. The journey has been a triumph. You are a wealthy man, but you are at the farthest edge of the known world. And now, you must turn around. You must face the same deserts, the same mountains, the same bandits. But this time, you are carrying a cargo that is even more valuable and even more tempting to thieves. The long, haunted journey home is about to begin. Your business in the East is done. The hard-won bolts of silk, a treasure worth more than gold, are now carefully packed and loaded onto the backs of your remaining camels. You are an immensely wealthy man, at least on paper, but you are 1,000 miles from home. And you now face the most dangerous part of your entire venture, the return journey. Before, you were a merchant carrying a mixed cargo of glass and textiles, a tempting but manageable target. Now, you are a moving treasure chest. Every man you meet on the road, every guard you hire, every official you pay a toll to, knows or suspects the value of the luminous fabric bundled on your camels. The paranoia that was a quiet companion on the journey out is now your constant. Screaming bedfellow, you trust no one. The journey home is a journey through a landscape of ghosts. You are retracing your steps, and every location is imbued with a painful memory. You pass through the oasis city of Kashgar once more. But this time, you are not the wide-eyed traveler seeking comfort and information. You are the target. You see the other merchants in the caravanserai looking at you, their eyes filled with a mixture of envy and calculation. You sleep in your small room with your sword by your side and a heavy chest barricading the door. The city's comfort now feels like a trap. Its pleasures like bait. You leave the city and face the great Pamir Mountains again. The cold is just as biting, the paths just as treacherous. But now, every stumble by a camel, every gust of wind that threatens to push a beast towards the precipice, brings a new kind of terror. You are not just watching an animal in peril. You are watching a fortune in silk. Your entire family's future, teetering on the edge of a cliff. The beauty of the high passes is lost on you now. All you see are a million opportunities for ruin. After the mountains, you must cross the great desert again. The Taklamakan. The place of no return. It is even more terrifying on the second pass. The bleached bones you saw on the way out now seem like personal friends. Grim reminders of how close you came to joining them. The desert is no longer just an obstacle. It is a graveyard you are passing through. and you are not sure you have truly escaped it. You are haunted by the memory of the sandstorm, the thirst, the maddening emptiness. The wind that whispers through the dunes sounds like the voices of the men you lost the guard who froze in the mountains. The driver who succumbed to the fever. The slave who was flogged to death after trying to escape. Your caravan is a smaller, quieter, and more somber affair now. The ranks have been thinned by bandits, by sickness, by the hardships of the trail. The new slaves you purchased are a constant. Silent reproach. You try to see them as cargo, as an investment, but you see the humanity in their eyes. The despair. You see the husband and wife who were sold to different merchants in Kashgar. Separated forever. And you know that their tragedy is a part of the profit you now carry. The silk on your camels' backs feels heavy with the weight of their stolen lives. The brutal secrets of the Silk Road are no longer abstract tales. They are the ledger of your own business dealings. Historians who study the human side of history, the history of emotions, will debate the mindset of a man like you. Were you a triumphant adventurer, filled with the pride of a successful enterprise, or were you, like a soldier returning from a long and brutal war, suffering from a kind of trauma, haunted by the things you had seen and the things you had done to survive and to profit? You know the answer. There is no triumph. Only a deep and profound weariness. After more than a year on the return journey, after enduring the same dangers all over again, you finally see it on the horizon, the familiar turquoise domes of your home city. Samarkand. A feeling so overwhelming it defies description washes over you. It is relief, it is joy, but it is also a deep, aching sadness. You enter the city gates not as the hopeful, anxious merchant who left 2 years ago, but as a legend. A man who faced the wilderness and returned with a fortune. Your family, who had likely given you up for dead, greets you with tears of disbelief and joy. Your investors, who had written off their capital, are ecstatic. You are the talk of the bazaar, a man to be respected and envied. You buy a larger house. You adorn your wife in the finest silk. You have achieved everything you set out to do, but your journey is not over. It will never be over. In the quiet of the night, in your new, comfortable home, you close your eyes and you are no longer in Samarkand. You are back on the trail. You feel the searing heat of the desert sun. You hear the mournful jingle of the caravan bells. You see the bleached bones in the sand. You see the face of the slave you sold. You have escaped the trail, but the trail will never escape you. You sit in your peaceful courtyard, surrounded by the wealth you have earned. You run a piece of the magnificent silk through your gnarled, scarred fingers. It is beautiful. It is flawless, and it feels as heavy as a shroud. You have gained a fortune, but you have traded a part of your soul for it. You have learned the final, most brutal secret of the Silk Road, that the journey changes you, and that even when you have come home, a part of you is left behind forever, a ghost wandering the lonely, haunted road between two worlds. And so, the merchant sits in his quiet courtyard, forever haunted by the long road that brought him his fortune. Let the image of him, and the vibrant, dangerous world of the Silk Road, begin to gently fade. The scent of spices, the sound of the caravan bells, the vastness of the desert allow them all to dissolve into the peaceful stillness of your own room. The story is finished. Bring your awareness back to your own state of comfort and rest. Feel the simple, profound luxury of your bed, a safe harbor at the end of your own day's journey. There are no bandits on your horizon, no perilous mountains to cross. You are safe. You are at peace. The stories of the past, with their hardships and their brutal truths, can serve to make our own present comfort all the more precious. The merchant's long and haunted journey home is over. And now, your own journey for the day is done. There is nothing more required of you tonight than to let go. Let go of the story. Let go of the world. Let your thoughts soften. and your body grow heavy. Allow the gentle quiet of the night to be your own safe and welcoming caravanserai, a place of deep and restorative rest.